Hi, welcome back to another Affinity photo tutorial. Today we're going to be making a movie poster. So this is what we will be making right here. So let's go ahead and get started with a new file. For this we're going to go with a vertical. It's 1920 by 1080. We're just going to do it in portrait mode. So we'll go ahead and create that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to place our background image. And for this I just found a picture of an underpass of an elevated railway because I like this light pattern here. We can work with that. So we'll kind of center that up a little bit right about there. That looks good. And then we will go ahead and rasterize and trim that. And what we'll do is make two more copies of this. So Command J and Command J. And then above those copies, we're going to do a recolor adjustment. So let's come to recolor, and we're going to drag this over towards the kind of tealish blue. Looks pretty good right about there. I'm going to bring the saturation down just a little bit. Don't want to overdo it. And maybe make it a little darker. Okay, so that looks good right about there. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create our curtain effect. So let's go ahead and turn off the uppermost of the three copies, and we'll start working on this second one. So we'll come down here to Live Filters, and we're going to add in a motion blur. And let's bring it up to 90 degrees so it's straight up and down, and we're going to bring the radius all the way up. I tell you what, let's do 200 pixels on that. And then we do want to click on Preserve Alpha. Okay, that's that layer. And now what we can do to this layer here as well is we can start masking out what we want to keep in and what we want to get rid of. So if we hold down the Option key and click on the mask, we're going to bring in an empty mask. So this is what we're seeing without the mask on there. We're going to make sure we're painting with white. And let's grab a brush, and we'll make it a nice big brush. And make sure that we're painting with white. And we're going to make sure that that mask is applied to only the motion blur layer. And now we can start painting in our motion blur. And we want to kind of create that curtain effect here. And since we're doing it with a mask, we can always go back and change things if we want. But that looks pretty good for now. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to activate the topmost layer of the three. And we're going to do the same thing to this one. We're going to come down here to Live Filters, Motion Blur. This time we're going to turn it upside down to 270, even though it is straight up and down. This one we'll leave it 100 pixels. We will preserve the alpha as well. Do that. Now to this layer, what I want to do is I want to add, well, first thing I want to do is change the blend mode. Let's change the blend mode to add on this one. So it kind of creates a little bit more of a glow. And I really want these, I want these vertical lines to really stand out. So let's take this layer, we'll come up here to Filters, we'll go to Detect, and Detect Vertical Edges. Okay, and that really gives us some nice sharp streaks there. And again, we can go in and change this later on if we want. So that's our background. So now what we need to do is place our subject in there. So I just cut out this guy that I found with a hood on. We'll go down to Place. You know, you can pretty much find this kind of stuff anywhere or make it on your own. And we're going to place him in here. And now he's already under our recolor adjustment. So if you like the way this looks, that's fine. You can leave it that way. Or if you wanted to do it separately and change, create a little more contrast, you could do that as well. I think for the most part that actually looks pretty good. Really what we need to do now is we need to kind of get some shadow up underneath his feet here, because that doesn't look very realistic there. So I tell you what, let's drag him above the recolor adjustment for right now. This is what he looks like normally. And we'll go ahead and take care of this blur on his feet right now. Let's come over and grab the rectangular marquee tool. Well, first of all, we need to Sorry, we need to rasterize and trim him. Let's grab the marquee tool, and we're just going to grab right here at his feet, and we're going to copy that selection, Command C, and then we'll paste it into its own layer, Command V, and then we'll deselect. So now we can take that layer and we can stretch it out a little, like that. And then probably what we want to do to this as well is let's go ahead and add a mask to that so we can fade it in. So we'll grab a gradient here and we'll just kind of drag that down where his feet are just kind of showing up. That looks pretty good right there. All right, so I think if we just take the figure itself and put it over the top of that, that works. And let's just try and put this recolor adjustment over the top and see what happens. Yeah, that worked just fine. All right, so we've got our figure in place now. All right, so now what we need to do is add in our text. So let's come over here to our artistic text tool and we'll drag out. And let's go ahead and make this white so it shows up a little bit better. And we're going to type in the word incubus because he's a bad guy. And we'll put that in place where we want it. Let's change the font. For this, I found this one that I like called Cinzel. It's kind of an elegant font. Let's place it right about there. Tell you what, we can make it a little bit smaller. And for that matter, let's go ahead and grab him and his shadow here and move him up a little bit. We want to leave room at the bottom for some text as well. So let's take this text and drop it below our character. And then let's make a copy of that as well because we're going to need that for the drop shadow. So Command J. So let's take this top one and come over here to the Mesh Warp tool. And we're going to drag up from the center here and we're just going to create an arc. Let's turn off this bottom one for a second so we can see what we're doing there. Yeah, that looks pretty good there. So now we're going to turn on the bottom one and let's add a layer effect to that. And what we'll do is we'll change the color overlay and we'll make it black. All right, and then what we can do with that is we can stretch it out, kind of bring it down about, let's say about halfway to him. So what I did here is I did not accept the mesh warp on the upper text. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that right now. Let's go back to that text, go to mesh warp. Sorry about that, folks. And we're going to go ahead and drag that up again where we want it, right about there. Looks good. And then what we'll do with the stretched out text now is we're going to match that. Come over to the mesh warp, kind of drag that up so it matches those letters. There we go. Accept that. And then the last thing we're going to do to this layer here is we're going to come down and give it a Gaussian blur so that it kind of blends into the background a little bit more like that. All right, so what we have left to do here is put in our lower text here because retribution is coming. So we'll grab our text tool again, drag out. Retribution is coming. And then we'll scale that down. Now with the white lettering like that, that's awfully hard to see there. And so we're going to make that bold first of all. And then we'll come into the layer effects on that one as well. And let's give it a color overlay. And on the color overlay, let's bring that over to red. Okay, so now that's grabbing the color adjustment here. So what we're going to do is let's drag that layer up and over the top there so we can see it better there. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to give that a little bit of an outline. Very little outline. Let's go with like maybe half a pixel of black. And then maybe an outer glow. Kind of helps separate it from the background. And what we'll do is we'll pick a color that's already on here, one of the brighter blues. And we'll bring the radius up on that. Bring the intensity down. So just enough to kind of pop it off there. And then let's duplicate that. And we're going to drag that down. And we're going to change this to the date. And this will be December 7th. And we are going to change the font on that as well as some of the layer effects. So let's change this to something big. Let's just go with Arial Black. Let's size it up. And let's bring this down a little bit. Okay, now on the December 7th, let's go into the layer effects on that one. And let's change the outline from black to white. And we'll bring the radius up a little bit on that so it separates it. That looks pretty good. All right, and about the only other thing I'm going to do on this is to help bring this text out a little bit more. I'm going to add in a pixel layer, an empty pixel layer. I'm going to drag that below our text. And we're going to grab the brush, white brush, and let's just kind of pop it on there like that. Maybe pop it one more time. And then we're going to stretch it out horizontally. If we grab the handle here and press Command and Option at the same time, we can bring that out. That's not too bad. And we can lower the opacity on that a little bit too, so that we can kind of still make out the background. Well, anyway, there's a really quick down and dirty movie poster using just some stock pictures that you can find on the internet. Fun to play around and practice. So if you like this video, please give it a like, or if you feel so inclined, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll keep making more of these tutorials. And until next time, peace. Talk to you later. Bye.